Okay. I mean, it's not going to be perfect, but, that's fine. It doesn't have to be. Even though this is a video about green screen. Okay. The green screen. What is it? Well, it's a green screen. And much more. A green screen is an efficient tool that's used to keep the ever-growing population of visual effects artists out of the ever-growing number of nearby mental institutes. To understand what and why a green screen is, let me introduce you to rotoscoping. Just kidding. I'm not going to put myself through that. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to rotoscope. I'm not going to rotoscope. It would take me 5 to 10 minutes to rotoscope 2 frames of this, of just like anything. Because what rotoscoping is boring. It's the art of cutting out a person or an object by hand from a video so you can put things behind them or replace the background. It is horrible, and it sucks a lot. Because you have to do it on every frame, and you can get up to 30 or 60 frames a second, and it's just horrible. This is why you use a green screen. A well-lit, unwrinkled green screen can keep rotoscoping to a bare minimum or just completely avoid it. It's amazing, and that's kind of why it was invented. The proper way to use a green screen is sparingly, however. Green screens are not for the faint of heart, and they're not for the faint of brain knowledge, because they're a tool, and a tool to be learned how to use correctly, and then immediately be used incorrectly by every single big budget production out there. You can see it everywhere. Green screens should not be used like they're used for cable television. It's not supposed to take up the entire frame. It's not supposed to just be a static image behind you. It's supposed to cut out performers easily and cleanly so you can replace the background cleanly or add things behind them. So here's how to properly use a green screen. Rule number 1. If your footage sucks, your green screen sucks, and it'll make it worse. Grainy, blurry, blown out, or just bad footage is going to make green screen work a chore. When you're done, it might even look worse. Green screen work is best used when the footage is good. And if you know that the footage is going to be bad, don't use a green screen. It just ends up making worse. Trust me. From experience, toaster camera means toaster green screen, and that's not going to look good. Rule 2, a badly lit green screen is going to make you look like a Zoom call. It really will. If your green screen is lit well, then there's going to be as little shadow as possible. It'll be heavily contrasted from the talent, the background. There's going to be enough space between the talent and the green screen to eliminate bleed. I have to stand pretty close because I don't have a big green screen, and I want to be able to cut out my entire body for, purposes. But if I weren't, I would probably stand about here. I hate my camera. About there. And that was so, I get exactly what I need, but that shadow behind me is gone, and there's no bleeding. There's no light fallout. Reflective light bleeding, or fallout, or whatever, is basically when the light bounces off the green screen and onto your talent, and that can leave a green halo around them, or, have green light on them, and then when you're keying, it's going to cut them out too. A badly lit green screen, for instance, let's just say, this is still pretty good. But let's just say something similar to this is going to leave your green screen like this. It looks like a Zoom call, and it's not pretty. So light your green screen well. Rule 3, masking and understanding is essential. Green screens are not magic. You are going to have to mask, and you are going to have to rotoscope sometimes. What happens if my hand goes out of frame? What happens if I go out of frame? Do you just cut me off? Do you not use that footage? No, you just cut me out. You use rotoscoping. You have to do it sometimes. Sometimes it's fine, like a quick hand movement. You can do that in about 10 minutes. Other times it's going to be painful, and you might just want to throw out the footage. But masking is always going to be required, and it's not always going to be difficult. For instance, with this green screen, I have a black border on it. So if my hand touches it, it's there, I can't key out the black. So what I do is I just don't touch it, and then I put a mask around the green screen like that, because I use this normally for background replacement, and then I simply, put a clean plate of my wall behind me, and then add effects, and that's how it's used. That's how I use it. This green screen is perfect for things like cutting out actors and backgrounds and whatnot and putting small stuff behind them. It's not for complete replacement because, well, while you're technically doing that, it's not supposed to look like that. Also, if I have a shadow on my screen, like, I think I do right here, I'll have to add multiple keys and just make them darker and darker and less strong so that, you don't get that zoom call look. It's going to be difficult, of course. That's why you want to have as little shadows as possible, but you can get away with it just a little bit. So that's just about it for a starter course, but I'd like to talk to you a little bit about understanding. Like, what is a green screen and why do you use it? I'll keep this short, but green screens are not magic. Back in the old days of film, the way that you would cut something out of a frame is by hand, cutting into the actual film. But then we got into RGB, red, green, and blue. Red, green, and blue channels were basically, and are still, the way to record film. And even digitally, that's what we use. Basically, you're split into 3 colors. And when you look at them by themselves, each of the channels by themselves, you're going to see just a black and white image. But that black and white image is basically going to tell the photons in the camera or the sensors where and how much of that color to put into the video. So the blue channel looks like this, and the dark darks are where it's really blue, like on my shirt. The, face is probably going to be very white because there's not a lot of blue there. There's a lot of red. So back in the old days of film, they realized that with these 3 channels, you could isolate green and blue, and if you put a green background behind someone, then you could get a channel where the person is pretty much just white, but the background is black. And this is called a matte. This is what the computer sees. When you use green screen and you crank the threshold or turn it down, you're actually making the white and blacks more contrasted. You're telling the computer, hey, it's okay to get this close to the green or this far away from the green. Any pixels that are, in this range of color to the green, make it white or make it black, depending on how you invert the matte. Now, back in the day when they did this with film, they really didn't have a threshold, so, it was easier to just make the green screen brighter. But they would record this, and then what they would do is they would get that black and white, and they would put it through chemicals to remove one of those colors. And then, through some form or another, they would run that film along the camera as it was recording the rest of the shot, or the other shot, or whatever. Which meant that there was a physical hole, a physical blockade, right? Covering up exactly where that other shot was. In Star Wars, it's used for the TIE fighters. Green screening is not just taking green and getting rid of it. So basically, with all this knowledge, you should understand this. A green screen can be whatever you make of it. And its purpose is to make a matte, a black and white image that the computer uses to know what to cut out from another image. When you turn the threshold of your effect up or down, that tells the computer how close or far from the color it recognizes as black and or white. A good key should look like this. This is the matte. And you probably won't see this image very much because the computer hides it. Instead, the computer translates and then shows you this. This is the key. But green screening is not erasing green. It's telling the computer, hey, colors close to this one are black, and anything else is now white. And I want you to take the black and get rid of it on the other image. And I want you to take the white and keep that on the other image. It's kind of complicated, yes, I know. But if you understand green screening, and if you understand mattes, you aren't just limited to erasing or changing the background. You can do things like this. Thanks for watching. Good luck, and always remember, whatever you do, as long as you're trying your hardest not to rotoscope, you're in the right direction.